So, welcome everybody. This is the implementation lab, as well as the overview for the packet on belonging for October 2019. And I hope that you are all enjoying your September and maybe able to take a deep breath after you've gotten your teacher. Somebody said on our brainstorm lab last week that they feel like their whole life has been fulfilled. They filled all their teaching positions. Yeah, I see some head nods, so it's a thing. So, um, what I recommend you do is mute yourself. Looks like we've got a lot of people on the call, and if you don't know how to mute, you can raise your hand. And then the other thing is there's a chat down below. You can see if you hover your cursor at the bottom of your screen, a little chat bubble comes up along with share and mute and all these things. And you can put your name and your congregation and your location, say if it's not real obvious. We'd love to know how far our connections extend today. It's always just, as everyone knows who's been on before, it's just miraculous that we can talk to each other. So I'll start with an overview of this lovely packet by saying this was a theme that was fairly controversial last April when we were setting the themes for this whole year. There were some other front runners, and people said, well, belonging makes us think of not belonging, who belongs? It's like, are we a club? And it plugs right into that. Let me just make sure we're doing things. It plugs right into that whole thing of, hey, I've heard of them. They're like a social club, aren't they? Fortunately, we're not getting that as much, but I can tell you when I started, that was certainly the feeling. And that growing up, that was definitely the feeling I got. We were a little better than everyone because we didn't believe in God. So can you tell I went to a humanist atheist UU congregation and had a humanist atheist father too. So belonging, though, as I worked on it, made me appreciate once again the beauty of this thematic ministry. I'm going to change this a little bit here. Because it's easy enough to create the angles, we call them buckets, for each Sunday, which brought out the beauty and specialness of this theme that your whole congregation is going to engage in if you are doing that. If it's just RE, that's fine too. But it gives us a maturity to dive deep into what does it mean to be a community, a people of belonging. It fits so well with our 3 theologies as UU that Scott and I use for crossing paths. It fits because the first theology, the first thing we talk about is the lifeline to our inner selves. That we as a people in Western world really, are not connected to our inner selves. It's pulled away from us by media, by the expectations of our consumer culture, by the fact that we live apart from each other. And we, as a faith community, want to help our people feel connected to their inner selves. Isn't that one of the purposes for why we get together? The second of those connections that we celebrate in Crossing Paths, which is our neighboring faiths like middle school curriculum, but also which underlie all these packets, is the connection and the belonging to our community. When I thought of being a midwife back in my undergraduate days, I realized what we miss, for instance, is the idea that when you're giving birth, you have your aunties and your mother right there next to you. And that's just not a very common experience. So the connections to our community, to our family, and even to our congregation are another thing that we lack. And so we in the faith community want to provide those moments of joy and sadness. And so I'll go back to my atheist humanist dad, who used to be a greeter at Mainline Church, like every day. He'd stand at the front door and he'd invite people home for Sunday dinner. Every day every Sunday we'd have somebody new at Sunday dinner. What he said was, you don't really know what UUism is all about until you experience a UU memorial service. And that's because you can sense the connections. Hey, everybody, welcome. You can sense the connections when you go to a UU memorial service. It's not like it's all about Jesus or God or the afterlife. It's about that person. And maybe there's Snickers bars serving when it's grandpa's favorite food, that kind of thing. So that's the second part of our theology that we celebrate with this packet. And the third is the connection to life's gifts, the greater world, and how we are removed from that. We are pulled away from natural experiences. We're sitting at our desks, we're looking in computers, and I love this because looking at your faces also is a way of connecting. So when I was a DRE starting in 1984, we didn't have this kind of connection. I was all alone in Fort Collins, Colorado. There was nobody within an hour and a half of me. And here we can get together and we're all doing the same kind of job, aren't we? And it's like, yay, I have connections. And this is one of life's gifts. So I love technology. I appreciate it. But I also know that there's a man who wrote the book, Last Child in the Woods, Richard Louv, L-O-U-V, and he says the more tech we use, the more nature we need. And so that third connection is the pulling away from the natural world, from moving our bodies even. So I happen to finally have invested in a stand-up desk, which I highly recommend, because I can move back and forth. So there you go, Katie's little thing. That all is a preface for belonging. Those three connections, the inner self to our community and to life's greater gifts, are a way of celebrating community and belonging to a community. So the 5 Sundays, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 4 Sundays in October, this is your rich time, isn't it? You've started the program. Your teachers are going to be in a few weeks. You don't have any holidays really yet. So now this is your big teacher moment. So I'm suggesting, and of course these are all suggestions, belonging to a story is one angle. And that's the whole angle of who's left out of the story. It goes along with Columbus Day and Indigenous Peoples Day. The second one is belonging to yourself, having the core strength to face up to bullies is a little parenthesis since it's National Bullying Prevention Month. The third is belonging. Oh, belonging and not belonging. I can't even read my writing. So that's the belonging, not belonging. That's the peer pressure. The angle I took was, when does it take courage to leave? When you just have to say, I just don't belong here. And the fourth and last one is belonging to bigger things, which is our sense of life's gifts and joys. It's also the sense of belonging you get when you are made of stardust, that miraculous concept that I just find so fascinating. So couple of overview things. One is, this is a great opportunity to gently nudge us. I guess I'd say gently because we're working with children, away from white-centered history. You know, there are reasons right now you don't want to gently nudge certain people, and sometimes that needs to happen. For children, I would say a gentle nudge. So in there is the story of Christopher Columbus. I wouldn't use it with preschoolers because it's pretty brutal what happened in that situation. But our children who are becoming more and more familiar with our UU perspective of white-centered history, I think it's okay. Say, you know, this needs to be thought about. Because here's what really happened. He made them slaves. He didn't, this was not a nice thing. There's a whole wonderful science connection with how trees belong to each other. This is a woman who is a forester who's discovered how their roots actually communicate. And she uses the term, even as a scientist, and I think it's fairly controversial, she uses the term mother trees, because sometimes there's a mother tree that if she can, she'll send extra nourishment to her offspring, her little trees that might be shaded, and she'll send them nutrients. It's a fascinating biochemical process and makes me appreciate forests better. I'm suggesting that as a for all ages too, as well as maybe doing it in the RE class that it's suggested for. And the final little thing I'll lift up, gosh, I tell you, I get so excited writing this packet, so it's hard for me to pick out a few, but I do want to have other people talk besides me. So this concept of Ubuntu, if you Google it, it comes up as some tech company has appropriated it as their ability to be human or something. I don't know. It was some techie thing. However, Desmond Tutu, Bishop Desmond Tutu, describes it. It's a Zulu word, so it's out of South Africa, and it's the ability to remain human. And there's a story that goes along with it. And I think it all fits with the story. And they're not sure, it might be urban legend kind of thing, you know. The story is of a group of children invited by an anthropologist to race to a tree and come back, and whoever comes back first gets a prize. And the children, and this takes place in Africa, the children all race to the tree, but then they stay and wait for their companions. And they all come back together. And the white anthropologist said, well, wait, why did you do that? They said, this is Ubuntu. Why would we want to go and not let our companions go with us? So I think that's a really neat concept we could share with our children. The two other things, I always bring show and tell. So I suggest the set game. Here's what it looks like. Maybe some of you know, set game, S-E-T. It's won some awards. And it looks like this. So there are cards. There are shapes, there are colors, and there are shadings. So you can see this shape is purple with nothing in it. This shape is two ovals that are red, and this shape is a squiggle with a green shading. So you lay these all out, it's sort of like a memory game, and you try to find the set, who belongs to each other. So for instance, this is a set because you've got the three colors represented, they're all shaded. All right, so I just want to give you, because I suggest this as one of the Wonderbox pieces for who belongs and who doesn't belong. There's some other suggestions too, so you don't have to buy the game. But if you happen to like to use games with your program, kids after school, after church waiting for their parents to stop endlessly talking in the coffee hour, or just some fillers, and you're going to get a game anyway. There's one for you. Oh, how many players? Geez, we've played it with tons. One or more. That's pretty flexible. They do say 6 to adults, so it's probably not good. Although I played it with my preschool grandchildren, and they sort of get it. They start making up their own rules. All right. And then the last little show and tell is about, I decided I would go whole hog into puppets this year because I'm a puppeteer myself, but I love what you can do. And you know, it's as simple as using your fingers, so it's not going to be a big deal. But I have a little script in there so that the little script is one little finger and another little finger talking to each other about who belongs. I happen to have a bear and a butterfly that I use. So I put that in. Here's what bear says, here's what butterfly says, and they talk to each other. But by talking to each other through puppets, you don't necessarily have to have the children talking to you. The best example I can think of this is death. So what do you think about death? Oh my gosh. The 5th grade boys and girls who are very active are going to say, there is no way. I am making myself that vulnerable to you right now. You know, does that sound familiar? And the little ones are going to be like, oh, haven't thought about death. I don't know what to say. But if you have 2 puppets and you say, well, what do you think about death? Well, my pet died. Oh, what happened to your pet? And we had to bury it. We buried it in the backyard. You see, suddenly the puppets are the foil for a hard conversation. So I'm going to do puppets as a suggestion in the preschool class for 1 session every month. And I encourage you to just, you know, hey, there they are. There's your puppets. I use bear and butterfly. You could use 2 pipe cleaners talking to each other. But tell your teachers in preschool, it's a foil for a conversation. I happened to see a 2nd grader go in and invent a puppet show about making friends. So if a 2nd grader for the preschoolers, so if a 2nd grader can go in, we can help the teachers feel comfortable. And of course, there's puppets. Yeah, see? And I should have had Guinevere here, but there's also a minister, Susan Ritchie, who has a puppet ministry. And I went to Ohio Meadville Seminary, taught a bunch of ministers about RE, and I suggested they start doing puppet ministry from the pulpit. And one very intellectual academic minister who at first was just shaking her head in the back of the room, I could see her. She's like, oh my gosh, what kind of class did I sign up for? They're talking about puppet ministry. By the end, she had found her puppet. I said, you know, this puppet's going to approach you and talk to you. And she found it. It was a moose puppet. And so now she's got a moose puppet in her ministry. Anyway, that's all to say. I love puppet ministry. So I thought I'd just stick it in there once a month. All right. That's enough yakking from me. And what I'd like to do now is invite you, and don't feel like you're going to be put on the spot. You can always say, Katie, I'm here to lurk. Lurking is fine. I'd like to do 3 topics. You each will get a minute to talk. Is there someone who could just like hold up their smartphone when a minute is over, and then we could see it and know that it's time to wrap up? You can raise your hand. Yeah, Sam's going to do it for us. Thank you, because I'm sitting here monitoring everything. So I'll just call the order on my screen. And if you say I'd like to lurk, that's fine. And if you would like to comment on challenges you've had during, you know, and really what this turns into, any kind of challenge you want to talk about is fine. If it happens to be about belonging, that's even better. Then we'll stop that and we'll do opportunities, the things you think you're going to put in place for belonging that you think others would be interested. And finally, we'll do takeaways. So, you know, if I've heard Mia say something, I'm going to say, oh, this is definitely where I'm going to go. So I'm going to start, and I'm going to push this there. So on my screen first is Sam. And Sam, I'll do it for you.
Thanks, Katie. You're talking about the puppets, and as you're talking about it, I look over at the pile of stuff that's sitting on my desk, and here's my frog.
Yeah.
And here's this amazing grasshopper that someone donated that is really intricate and amazing. And I have yet to have pulled him in, but gosh, that's fabulous. And I need to use you because he's adorable. He's adorable, but yeah, we haven't used puppets in a really long time. We have a giant collection of them down in our child space, and the little ones love them, and they're constantly pulling the bin of puppets out with the puppet theater and putting on their own shows for each other. So thank you. I appreciate the reminder that I'm thinking of some of our older ones, even up into middle school, that played with the puppets when they were younger.
Mm-hmm.
And I think they would really enjoy that. And yeah, I don't have anything set just yet, but it certainly has the wheels turning on how to tell some of these stories coming up next month.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, I wish I could go into puppet ministry more. Maybe if we have time at the end. Next on my screen is Christine Jarman.
Hi, I'm just going to lurk today because we are just starting out with Soul Matters.
Great. Welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. It's nice to see who's there. Next on my screen is Regina McConaughey.
Hi. I'll just start right off the bat. I've been in this position of being in charge of the RE program for my small congregation since June. And I'm struggling with the challenge of volunteer teachers and my hopes and expectations for what the program could be as a chronic overachiever, and the need to accept what people can give where they're at and take that and nurture them into a group that belongs and has a sense of pride in the RE program. And I'm also challenged by the fact that we have
And Sam's giving
space issues, like the way we divide up the kids is not the best.
Well, we're glad you're with us. Maybe we can help. All right, next on my screen, and I just changed it, so now, is Mia.
I just want to say that I'm in a congregation that has more than 800 members. We have close to 150 kids in our program, and we too suffer from volunteer non-engagement. So Regina, take heart. And this is my 6th year as a DRE. Hard to believe. But one of the things we did is concentrated on making community, and also not being afraid to use language that says, we expect this of you. I did a little math and figured out that if every family volunteered 16 hours during the year, we'd be good. So at least the new people coming in kind of know that and say, I'm here to figure out what I should be doing, with you. It won't really work for the people that have been there for a long time, but it's a constant, I think, that we all really suffer with. My challenge is we start in the beginning of August. So catching up.
All right, thanks, Mia. And thanks for that little takeaway for Regina. Lizzie, you're next on my screen.
Hello. So I too just did the math. If all of my volunteers volunteered this many times, we'd be set. So I have yet to share that statistic. So we are new to Soul Matters. September is our first month. And my challenge right now, I thought we had more buy-in and excitement, and there seems to be, I'm not sure what it is about what we're explaining, that folks are just not understanding why we would be putting any resources out there. They just keep thinking that the only people who need to know are like the people running the small group or the people running the lessons. I'm like, no, but there's like all this other stuff. So I thought we were explaining it well, but I guess we're not, or just there's resistance because it's changed. I don't know what it is, and I have a committee meeting on Sunday, so just keep brainstorming. But that's my challenge around Soul Matters right now.
Great. And Lizzie, you do have the smartphone. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Lizzie. Good point. Next on my screen is Joanne.
Hi, I'm also very new to Soul Matters. We just started things last week. I did send out the Soulful Home pages and have gotten good feedback from those already, so that was positive. What I'm hoping to learn today is the belonging packet for the youth. There's not much information there, and so what do I do? So I'm hoping people can help talk me through how to make that into lessons.
All right, thanks, Joanne. Oh yes, Sam has her hand up.
Joanne, I use the small group packet to help supplement the youth discussions. There is awesome material in there for discussion questions, readings, poetry, videos. The teens really like the video suggestions from the small group packet. So whoops, I timed myself. So yeah, you use that.
Great.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right. Next on my screen is Julia.
Our challenges are we're very new to Soul Matters. We didn't find out until mid to late August that this was being introduced into the congregation. So it's not widely known in the congregation, and our congregation has gone through a lot of changes with ministers and non-ministers, and so we've been a lay-led RE program for going on 3 years now. I'm co-chair of the committee, and you know, all the challenges that come with it. We have finally a minister who's very supportive of the program, and we hired a very part-time RE coordinator to help us with some of our you know, just administrative, making copies, contacting teachers kind of stuff. So those are our challenges. We're very excited about the program. It looks really good. And I personally teach in the 2nd to 4th grade group. So I've been really happy with the material I've looked through so far, but haven't had much time to really delve.
Cool, Julia. Thank you. Perfect timing too. Marissa is next on my screen.
Hi. Sorry. I'm pretty new at this. I just started with the kindergarten to grade 2s last week. And I guess I'm just like wanting to learn, especially like how to make the younger kids be able to like understand what's going on, because you know sometimes a lot of them just like want to run around and do whatever. So yeah, I guess just like helping the younger ones with like kind of staying focused and on task, but you know also making the activities fun for them and being able to learn the material as well.
All right. All right, next on my, good, thank you, Marissa, for being so focused. Laura Ellen is on my screen next. Hello.
I made it.
Yay.
So, so if I was to think of a challenge right now, of course we have volunteer issues as well, but teacher confidence. I have teachers who don't quite know how to. They have the Soul Matters material, but they don't have quite the confidence. I think they'll be fine once they start going, but I don't know how to provide the confidence other than one-on-one, which I've been trying to do. But we start up next week for classes. There's this other thing I'm wondering if anyone else has. When we have new families come in with kids, we give the parents a 1 year, like, no teaching time so that they can know the church. But I'm finding that's really hard. And I want to pull these people in within a month, maybe, or 2 months. I don't know how to reconcile that. So those are the couple of things.
Great, good questions.
Thank you.
Next on my list is Heather.
Hello, my name is Heather. I am an interim DRE. This is my second year as interim in a small congregation that is in transition right now. Not currently have a minister. We are looking for a contract minister to see us through this year, but we are lay-led at the moment. We have a brand new music director, and we have me as an interim. So my focus is to use the Soul Matters curriculum to build community, not only within the RE program, but also within the entire congregation. So bridging from the RE classrooms into the congregation as a whole is how we hope to use that. And that's also the biggest challenge, because I heard it echoed from other people. The understanding of how Soul Matters could work and what my vision is of the program, I'm having a hard time finding the right words for and overcoming that obstacle of connecting us. So that's where I'm really hoping. Actually, I love the belonging theme. I think that the belonging theme really can be a great time for us to use the theme to connect with each other.
Awesome. I've got a couple stars on that challenge there. Yes. Thank you. Next is Lenore.
Hi, everybody. I am thinking that my challenge is that we're moving from doing spirit play about every single session to doing a children's worship using the packet resources every first Sunday. We're calling it Soulful Sunday, and we're having a whole Soul Matters. The whole congregation is going to be engaging with Soul Matters on Soulful Sunday, which I'm really excited about. But I'm also, my challenge is I love the breakdown of each of the 4 weeks of the month, and I'm not sure yet whether I want to just kind of cherry pick and just have something belonging writ large, or if I want to pick, like, history and really just have that be the topic of children's worship, or how I have no idea what I'm going to do for children's worship on Soulful Sunday. So, or I guess I'm going to ask a couple friends to help me look at the packet and discern. But that's a great problem to have. So.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Lenore. And Julia. And Julie, there she goes.
I'm sorry. Are we on? Have we moved on to opportunities?
Oh, I'm sorry. No,
Okay, I've already spoken. Yeah, okay.
The screen just changed.
I see. Sorry.
The last on my list, unless I'd forgotten someone, is Christine Jarman. Now, I thought maybe I called on her too. Did I, Christine?
Yes, you did.
I thought so. Okay. All right, here we are. We've done our challenges. I will take executive privilege and just address this idea of introducing the congregation briefly to Soul Matters. It is, you are so correct. You all know it in your hearts, don't you? That it's new and it's a change. And boy, don't we want to just march along, Sunday school, sermon. I know what I'm doing. I drop my kids off. They ask me to do Sunday school. I'll do it in a year. However, if we're going to reach into 21st century faith formation, and reach people like my son and daughter-in-law who would rather spend Sunday morning mountain biking with their kids because they don't see them all week long. We have to change. And so my answer for those folks who are like, what are you doing? You're throwing everything up in the air. What's this thematic ministry? Is to say, it's so we can reach the spiritual slice of our lives, just like a pizza, and exercise it all together, rather than be, I'm going to say discombobulated, rather than you go to a sermon that's really good on historical appropriation and your kid goes to a Sunday school class on Hanukkah. And then you go home and you don't know how to ask the right questions. Whereas I'll share the story that Scott tells about his 7th grade daughter, who used to say, well, what did you preach about today, Daddy? I know what I did, but what did you preach about? When they started doing Soul Matters, the question became, so what did you talk about when you were talking about impermanence? And suddenly he realized she got it. She got that the whole family is going in to think about this theme and how it can grow within their family. That's the sort of backstory that you can share with your people. I don't know if it'll help. Maybe it will. Okay, so I want to go into our opportunities. And if you're just thinking about something that you really want to answer, like Joanne's question and the way Sam answered that, feel free, because I want this to be meaningful for you too and get something out of it. Okay, so first on my list is Sam, and I will do the timer.
Opportunities. So we've been doing Soul Matters for, I think we're on our 3rd year of Soul Matters, and everyone's really embraced it, and everyone loves that everyone's on the same page and having the same discussions. One of our questions has been, how do we extend that out past Sundays? So we're finally digging into Soulful Home, which I'm really excited. I was sending out similar packets over the summer to some of our families and getting really good feedback, and they appreciated that they could do some of these activities and discuss some of these questions and topics outside of Sunday, and really solidify these conversations that are happening within our faith and our community. So yeah, I'm taking advantage of it and rolling with it, and it might take some time, but they're going to be on top of it. And there was even the question of, well, do we offer this to everyone in the congregation and really extend it forward? So we'll see what happens, but I'm excited. I'm excited to keep this going and moving forward.
Mm-hmm. Great. And next on my screen is Regina.
Right now, I'm really excited about how well the topic of belonging is going to lend itself to, jive with the blue white supremacy culture teach-in at the beginning of October. The minister and I are in the process of talking about, like, oh, what's that first Sunday going to look like? So that's exciting to me. And the other opportunities that I'm still trying to guide, not just the RE program, but the whole congregation towards, so we set out conversation starter cards. We have a first Sunday potluck and we set out conversation starter cards with the questions from the small group packet, and I am excited to hear back on if people like that or not.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, Regina. Thank you. Next on my screen is Mia.
So this is also our first month with using Soul Matters. We used another thematic ministry product last year, and I'm excited about this is just a lot easier for us to use. I think there's a lot more for children in this than in the other packet. My teachers are excited to be working with it, and I also subscribe to Soulful Home and send it out, and I used Katie's language to invite anybody in the congregation who wanted it. I would send them a link to it, and I did have one grandma do that. So I'll keep doing that. And you know, I have a problem in that even though we have a gigantic number of people, they aren't really good at feedback. So I'll just keep doing what I think is the right thing to do, and hopefully somebody gives me some feedback sometime. But I think it's going well. I haven't heard anything negative.
Nice. That's good. Thank you, Mia. Next on my screen is Lizzie.
So I'm thinking about, you know, in my first 2 years of being a director of Lifespan Faith Development, I've been so grateful for the online group of colleagues. So one of the opportunities is just this new group of brains to connect with, to see different ways of doing things. Someone had posted, they created this Soulful Home shelf, and somebody had made the top of the shelf look like a house. So, I mean, teachers borrow ideas from each other. That's what we do. So we have that too now, and it's super cute, and I'm very excited about it. So I'm excited about that opportunity, networking with colleagues, and I think I'm just really excited about having kind of a new framework for looking at our programming and, you know, tying it together. And I'm hoping, so, oh, that's my time. I'm good.
Thanks, Lizzie, for being that way. Thank you. And now it's Joanne.
Yeah, I would like to express that too, what Lizzie said about the connections. You know, just having a meeting like this, I listened to a webinar on this recently. Just having connections and support from other people and finding out what people are doing is going to be very helpful. You know, when we went from districts to regions, I think we lost a lot of that connection. So having people, you know, I work in a silo a lot, and I don't want to be there. I want to have people to work with and be part of a team. So this kind of feels like I can be part of this team. So,
Great. Well, welcome. Laura Ellen.
Okay. I'm not really sure what to say, but Lizzie, you made me think about what we could do with the little kids, a hands-on project of making a home that they could take back to their home, because I keep thinking about this piece of how do we extend Sunday school throughout the week. So you just gave me that idea. That's an opportunity. Can't think of anything else.
It is. Thank you. And Julia.
I'm going to echo what Joanne and Lizzie said about the opportunities for networking and exploring new ideas for the program, because I've thought for a long time, we've done a 3-year cycle. We do UU year, World Religion year, and Judeo-Christian year. And I've been thinking for a long time that it's time to move out of that, but I didn't have the resources or a lot of backing to you know, explore other things. So really happy to have this introduced to us.
Thank you, Julia. I was there too. I had a thing we very carefully created and marched through, but it had nothing to do with the rest of the church. And I think that's where I really like thematic ministry. Next on my screen is Christine.
For opportunity, I'm just starting my second year as DLRE in a congregation that is growing rapidly with no plan for a minister yet. And I find myself overwhelmed because we just moved this position from just children to lifespan. So we introduced, I introduced small group ministry along with adult RE, along with revamping our program. And I saw Soul Matters, and I'm not full time. And I saw Soul Matters, and I'm like, I would not have to reinvent the wheel every week, and I would get support because I feel very much I'm the only professional voice in the congregation, and I'm like, but who's leading me?
Right.
So I think this will be good for the entire congregation. And this last year, we've moved from a very siloed kind of setup that we had to everything I do is family ministry and bringing us all together.
Oh, wonderful. And thanks for respecting that. That's so good to hear, because I feel like I can be the virtual DRE for all of you and help you out. You know, I want to do that. 33 years of religious education work right here, guys. Shoot me the questions. Thanks, Christine. Good to have you on board. And Heather is on my list next.
I feel like I kind of use my challenge time to talk about opportunities, because what I'm really looking forward to is using belonging to talk about how we belong to each other in the congregation and integrate all the work we do in religious education with the children into our larger congregation. I love the idea about conversation starter cards. We have a church picnic this Sunday. I think I'm just going to throw that right into the mix right away this week. And that's it. I feel like I already said what I need to say. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heather. Next on my list is Lenore.
Opportunities. I am excited. I'm really excited to start tying together. I guess I kind of already talked about opportunities, but to start tying together Soul Matters with just one time a month, everybody kind of exploring something on the same page. We're not anywhere near moving toward, theme whole church or even like family-based ministry, really. But there's one small thing we can try and do, and I think if I start really small, then that'll be a great taste of things. And Katie, I don't think we're going to get to the point where the kids are going to be asking about the sermon, but if we can at least get to the point where like people know that they're engaging with that topic, and that the kids kind of have a taste of some of this more, I like the Soul Matters approach, the sort of more creative story, like a mixture of approaches to things, rather than just only having spirit play. I'm hopeful that there will be breath of fresh air. And so that's for the whole year. I guess for belonging, I'll think about it.
Yeah. Thank you, Lenore. And next and last on my list is Marissa.
I'm excited I'm excited that we're able to connect, and I'm able to kind of get a better idea of what people are doing, just because I'm very new to what I'm doing and running working with the younger kids. So yeah, this opportunity is very exciting for me to make me feel like I kind of know what I'm doing somewhat, and getting other ideas. I really like the idea of making the house thing for family spirituality. I really like that. So that's a great idea. So yeah, I'm excited for that.
Great. Thank you, Marissa. I wanted to just reiterate something that we shared in Brainstorm, which was I was the keynote speaker in Star Island about 21st century faith formation. And pretty much what I said, and I also put this up on the UU Religious Educators Facebook page, is that one of the things I feel like we should be doing is diminishing the importance of Sunday morning and increasing our staff time and our people time to doing family support and immersion experiences. So because going back to that example of my son and taking his kids mountain biking on Sunday morning, when that's their only time to be a family together. And yet I think that they would do something which supports them as a family and which gives them an immersion, like going to a camp overnight. When I was a DRE, and I suspect those of you who are DREs are the same way, those family support and immersion experience were extra on top of all the time I was spending on mostly Sunday morning programming, and then about a third of it for the intergens that were coming down the pike. What would happen if we changed that around? We said Sunday morning are the links on a necklace of gems. Because this is the other thing. When you ask the senior high kids when they're bridging, what are they going to take away from their RE career? And you know what? Most of them would say to me, I don't remember anything before 6th grade. And I began to say to myself, and what I am doing is making any difference in the world and anything? Well, that was a whole 2-hour presentation on Star Island. Has my career been in vain? The short answer was no. And yet the caveat is, if you spend all your time on that Sunday morning experience and you think that's the big deal, it isn't, not anymore. Family support and immersion experiences. That's why I'm so happy to hear you all finding creative ways to use Soulful Home too. I would have died and gone to heaven if that had been available to me when I was working in a church. And it's not just an ad for one of our products. It's really the way I feel like we should be reaching our families. Okay. Takeaways. We sort of morphed. You see how it morphed into some of the takeaways. So this is a time when we can spend a minute, talking about takeaways, ideas, reflections. It's like a check-in circle that you do with the children. Now that you've heard everybody check in, what new things have you been given to think about? Sam, you're first on my list.
Takeaways. I love the idea of the conversation starter cards. Definitely need to find a way to finagle that one in. And I need to go back through my theology notes and dig up everything that I had about the house, because that was something that I really wanted to use and it didn't happen. So thank you for that.
Regina.
As I'm growing into this new job for me, I think that patience is definitely a growth edge for me. And learning that church time, I read this in the Essex Conversation book somewhere, where church time is like 1/7 of like regular time. So I see how rich the Soul Matters materials are and the idea for doing family ministry, but my congregation's not there yet, even though my families need it, but the rest of the congregation isn't there yet. So I'm just trying to love the richness of the sea in my brain and hope that slowly I can invite them to join me there. But I just need to keep breathing.
And Mia.
I got a lot out of the conversation of belonging. I write an article every month and that goes in our newsletter, and that's going to help me with that. Everything related to church takes an incredible amount of patience. You have to really wait for it to come to fruition. And so, it's increments. And I just want to hold up that it's so important to have the community. Katie, what you say about, oh, I wish I had this. We're in Albuquerque, we're really isolated. There aren't really any other churches around here with an RE program. And so I have a silo of my own, and I'm really grateful for all your words.
Great. Thanks, Mia. And I think it's Lizzie next.
The conversation cards was another piece for me. I wrote a note about that, and I am seeing in the chat using resources from Soulful Home, understanding that correct, for a parent group, and I'm getting a parent group started. So I'll be looking at that as another opportunity. So those are my two very tangible takeaways from today.
Great. I love to hear that. I'm an applied person. I like takeaways. Joanne.
Well, I want to thank you for the suggestion to use the small group packets with the youth. I will definitely do that. And also the reminder to look at the Facebook pages on Soul Matters. And now I have a place to use my 2 boxes of puppets, so I'm excited about that too.
Great. And Laura Ellen.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go back and review what you said, Katie, about belonging, because I missed that part. But I did have a couple of questions. Can I ask them real briefly? It's about asking someone to join. Did you cover that already, Katie? About asking someone to join our faith is part of the belonging small ministry packets. And I thought it was just an interesting point. I don't even know how to ask people to join our faith. Wow. So where do we go for a deeper discussion about how to do that kind of thing?
Well, if anyone wants to stay on a little longer, we could talk about it. That's a good idea.
Yeah, because And then the other thing that I had a question, I went to a synagogue talk yesterday, and Judaism and the sources all talk, they're all about belonging. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that might be an additional way to look at things. So the takeaway is thank you, everyone. But so I'll hang out afterwards. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Julia.
I'm very grateful. I mean, there's so much here that it's hard to narrow it down, but the one thing that's really sticking out in my mind is that, I've been on the Youth RE Council for some time now, and we don't have anybody doing adult RE. There are a couple of adult RE programs that are just kind of ongoing, and but there's nothing coordinated, and it might be my time to move into that. So this has been an interesting process. We'll see how it goes.
Mm-hmm. Great, thanks, Julia. Next is Christine.
I think the word that stuck in my head was immersion, and sitting with that and really figuring out how to make faith development during the week like part of the culture of your home, whether you have kids or not. Because I know being lay-led, we have a disconnect because you have so many people coming in later in life to our faith, and trying to help with that education part and that development part. And so I want to sit with that and just how can I use Soul Matters in order to immerse people in this deepness that will fulfill them, and they're looking for that fulfillment. They just don't even know how to break the seal to start doing it.
Excellent. Yes. Next on my list is Heather.
All right. My takeaways, I again mentioned in the opportunity part. The conversation starters are definitely something I'll be implementing right away. The other thing is that this is my first time that I'm meeting with you all, and I think that my other takeaway is this is really valuable time spent. So thank you for doing it, and I will look forward to joining you all again next month.
Lovely. And Lenore?
I have a lot of takeaways. I'm wondering about how I can help our existing small group that uses the Soul Matters packets and our parents. Maybe they could do something with Soulful Home. We haven't invested in it, so I don't really know much about it, but I'm just sort of thinking through that. I'm even wondering if maybe we could do a multi-generational Soulful Home.
Ooh.
Where people are coming in, the kids are, because I have some kids who really like discussing things and leading things, and but I don't know yet. That might be a next year question. That is a next year question, at least spring. I'd also love to say something about Ubuntu, but it's not a takeaway. But at some point, if there's room.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I love the idea of focusing on that concept. I work with people who draw really heavily on the concept of Ubuntu and for Afro-centered restorative justice and things like that. Anyway, I wonder if it might be possible to find a story that doesn't center the experiences of an anthropologist who's encountering this culture for the first time and being surprised by it. Instead, having a story that would be talking about Ubuntu from the perspective of somebody like a child in South Africa or something like that.
Good point. Excellent.
And
if anyone knows something there, Google. Yeah. I looked and I couldn't find anything, but boy, that's excellent. Thank you, Lenore.
Thank you.
Marissa's next on my screen.
I'm gonna echo Heather's takeaway with just the opportunity to chat with everybody and get to know kind of what ideas other people have. I really like the puppets idea. I think that's really great for especially the younger kids when discussing kind of the harder topics, as you mentioned, like a pet dying or whatever. I think I will definitely be doing something like that for the belonging. And yeah, it's just great to have this session, and I look forward to it next month.
Wonderful. Fran, you just joined us and we're about to close up, so I'm going to say bye for the recording, and then anyone who wants to stay on is welcome to chat a little more. I just wanted to mention how wise you all are. Regina's comment about the frustration of seeing so much opportunity and knowing that our congregants aren't going to catch it for 3 years sometimes. That's, I served different churches for 15 years, and it was the 3rd year that was in the sweet spot. Maybe Mia can nod if she felt like that's when they started understanding what I was saying and what I would like to see happen. So I'll share with you as a closing the words of one of my mentors, Pat Ellenwood, who said to me, Katie, start as you mean to continue. We don't want you to burn out in your first year or your 2nd year. And just as Lenore just said, maybe that's something for next year. All these wonderful ideas from your creative brains. And just think, if we just publish this particular chat, all the ideas we have in it. However, start as you mean to continue, so that your congregation will reap the benefits of having someone in place longer than 1 or 2 years. He drew a circle that shut me out. A heretic, a rebel, a thing to flout. But love and I had the wit to win. We drew a circle that drew them in. That's Edwin Markham, our Universalist, one of our Universalist ancestors, and one of the guiding closing words that I shared with you in the packet. So I'm going to turn off the recording. Bye to everyone in our listening audience.